back. Thanks for hanging out with us. We do appreciate it. We are Sports Take. Smash that like button, folks, if you could. We do appreciate it. If you missed any of Anthony Sanfilippo, you can always go to JAKIBSports.com, JAKIB Sports YouTube channel, and check it out in its entirety. All right, so a couple things here, Derek. We mentioned earlier, looks like Bradley Beal's on the move, headed to Phoenix, which I'm thrilled. I don't care one bit about him or Phoenix, but I'm glad he's not going to be a Sixer. I don't want any parts of that contract or his injury history or games missed. So that's a good thing. But what's troubling is, and I've felt this way all along, I've thought that the Houston thing was just Harden's way of leveraging the Sixers into more money. I've said it from the jump. I still feel that way. But, even someone who was pretty staunch that Houston was in the mix here, like legitimately, Keith Pompey, we have on the show quite a bit, does a great job covering the Sixers for the Inquirer. He looks like he the sense I get from reading him is it's trending more and more like Harden coming back here, and that's certainly plan A for the Sixers. Don't like it.
So basically this fan base is going to have to go through a similar season of what they went through already. And I think it's going to be a little bit more salt in the wounds because fans are going to go out. They know they're going to have a good team. Obviously, they're going to want to see him match up against the better teams, Milwaukee's, Boston's, Miami, even Cleveland's and the Knicks. But then you get to the second season, and before it begins, it's like, here we go. We're only going to go so far.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. I mean, I don't know how the Sixers let themselves get to this point. No draft picks. They're up against the wall in the cap. I look at other teams that have maneuverability to do certain things in the good teams. And I'm like, where did the Sixers go wrong? And obviously not knowing the little nuances of how they approach this thing. And I know they were all in terms of once we got Joel, we build around this thing, we can take off. It hasn't happened for whatever reason. People were elated. And I was among them when they made that deal to bring Harden in here. I thought they got Harden for a steal. I mean, I didn't want to see him give up Curry in the process, but you got to give up something to get something.
Absolutely, yeah.
And unfortunately, it didn't turn out to be exactly what people had hoped it to be. And so the public outcry again is going to be, how did we fail? How did we fail the process? They're going to mock the process. In a lot of cases, rightfully so. When you look at how many lottery picks they had, and none of them are still here except Embiid. It's a shame that this fan base, that all they want to do is be able to celebrate, is going to have to go through this again. And the thing is, it's going to be a long, arduous journey from the time this season tips off until you get to the playoffs, because the fans' enthusiasm is going to be capped by what they're expecting at the end.
Like, I think, King Pooty TV sums it up. Not even a little bit excited about the Sixers this season.
Valid point.
Right. And I think what happened, even beyond the process stuff, if you just look at the here and now, if you're a fan of the team and you're saying to yourself, if this is similarly just sort of run back with the same personnel, what is different here than what we've seen the last 5-6 years? Why is this going to look any different to me? And why am I to get excited about a regular season game in, a regular season game number 62 when I know what the outcome is? I know where this is headed ultimately. Yeah, they may win 50 games, and that's great. They may be a 3 seed, and that's great. And they may get past the first round, and that's great. But we know how this ends, and it always ends the same way. That's where I don't get it. Like, how does Daryl Morey, how does Josh Harris, how do Elton Brand and the higher ups not see this? That if you bring this back, this is what this is going to look like.
See, Barbara Carroll says, D-Gun, God help us with the Sixers. And then Debo says a new coach will help. I think a new coach will help this team play a more disciplined style of basketball, especially on the defensive end. But does that equate to making them a better team? I think they're still limited in terms of perimeter shooters, like consistent perimeter shooters, maybe even worse. Who knows? In terms of the perimeter shooting game, a change was needed in terms of the strategy, the motto.
I like Nick Nurse.
Yeah, I like, can he make this team that much better? That's a huge question mark because you're not moving a lot of pieces to make the team better. So can a coach take this team that has been good but far from great for 3 consecutive years. And all of a sudden, a light switch goes on and can make them great. I don't know.
Yeah, like that's like my thing is you're putting a lot of pressure on a guy in his first year as the head coach, and you're asking him to get different results than maybe Rivers got. Okay, I mean that part is fair to an extent, but if you really look at it,
right?
Do you feel like Game 7 was on Doc Rivers, or was it on the players who decided not to show up?
I said it's the players.
Me too. Like, so what is Nick Nurse supposed to do if that's the attitude of those two guys in the biggest game?
I couldn't agree more. As a player, it is your job to go out there and not allow yourself to be embarrassed at the most crucial juncture of your season. Now, I can also say this. Look at what Miami did to Boston.
Yep.
In a Game 7 in Boston.
Yep.
Boston was a no-show.
It's true.
You came all the way back from 3-0. You had that Game 7 in your backyard, and you got punked by Miami like that. A less talented team, but a more determined team.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with the Sixers. At some point, we all saw it. They just shut down. When things weren't going their way, they shut down and basically coasted to the finish line. You cheated the fans in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah, you did. Look, Sills makes an interesting point about Bob Myers. Bob Myers resigned as the Warriors GM. Mike Dunleavy has taken over. I would love him. I think Daryl Morey's overrated. I would love him. I don't know that he wants to get back into it. I don't know. He might. But if that were the case, I would love it. I would welcome it. The only problem is with that, is it all you almost, and it's not going to happen this year, obviously, but if it did happen, it's like coach, GM, we're changing all the parts around, but the players, we're still rolling out Harden. We're still rolling out Embiid. You know what I mean? It's still, from a player standpoint, it's still the same thing. And that's what concerns me more than anything else. And I get back to, I don't know that anybody else in basketball is going to be willing to commit to Harden the way that Daryl Morey is because of those two, their history. And I think it's a mistake. I said to you before, Derek, worst case, give me 2 years. And if it's a lot of money, at least it's only 2 years. If it gets beyond 2 years, man, I don't know how you spin this.
No. I want to go back to your Morey point for a moment. You said he's overrated, and I'm not disagreeing with your point. But when he was hired, across the board in unison, everybody applauded. It's the perfect compliment we need. Because of his track record, this is the perfect compliment we needed. To get this team over the hump, and it hasn't panned out. Now, everybody, including me, everybody is sour and Morey. Who's to say the next guy is going to be any better?
Yeah.
Especially because if I'm the next guy who's got to replace Morey, I want to look at the situation first. What's your cap situation like? What player in particular are you adamant that we can't move? Are you against it across the board that we can't dangle and beat out there somewhere? Because I have to take all that into consideration. If I'm going to come in here and try to change your culture, which you have failed for the last decade, if you're not going to give me carte blanche to do what I think is best for this organization, I don't know if I want this job, because if it goes south again, it's on me more so than you, the ownership.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe at some point, I know we'd talk about it, but maybe at some point, some of these potential GMs realize it goes even above. It's Josh Harris, it's ownership. It's the way things are done organizationally. The other thing you have to take into account is like what does this look like if he's still here in 3 or 4 years for Joel Embiid? What kind of physical condition is he in? Has he checked out at that point because the team hasn't won, a championship? I don't know. I mean, these are all, I think this year, the one thing to really keep your eye on is if they finish the same way or have a worse year, it doesn't beat one out. And then it's like everything changes. That's when you really go into tear down. You take it down to the stud mode.
But if he wants out, then you have a built-in excuse to get worse before you get better.
You do.
And what is somebody willing to give me for Embiid? Now, if you're willing to give me draft picks and players that can help me right now, I may have to take that. Yeah. Consider this thing has run its course. If you're just giving me draft picks, I don't know if I want that. I need people that can help me right now. What do you have on your roster you're willing to free up to get this guy who's an MVP caliber player, who's considered the best big left in the game today? What do you want to give me?
Yeah, and that's the $1 million question you have to ask yourself too. When it comes to the personnel on this team, Maxey, yes, but who else do you feel really? Yes, Embiid, he's an MVP, but I'm sort of taking him out of this. But Maxey and who else do you really love beyond that? Not much. Tucker's old.
Yeah.
Harden's old.
Yeah.
Tobias Harris is going to be gone after this year. There's not a ton off the bench.
The only excitement on this team outside of Embiid is Maxey.
Yeah.
That's it. When I look at this roster, and this is eliminating the Harden from the equation until it's confirmed he's back or whatever.
Right.
I look at the entire roster and I go, huh?
Oh, you have guests. You have guests at the Gunner crib.
I mean, we keep saying we got to put a sign up on the door. And either whether we make one or go buy one that says, "Please do not ring the doorbell. We are working from home," and still haven't done it yet. Drives me nuts.
Do what you got to do. If you got to hop off, I got it. Don't worry.
No, I'm not doing it. Okay. My wife is downstairs. Let her deal with it, whoever it is.
I got you. Sills asks, would I send Embiid to LA for Anthony Davis and draft picks? Here's what worries me, Sills. I worry about AD being able to stay healthy too. That's a concern. But at some point, you got to consider this. I think if they don't make progress this year, you have to look long and hard at Embiid, because there's one common denominator here through Brett Brown, through Ben Simmons, through Markelle Fultz, through Hinkie, and it's Embiid. And then look, in some ways, that's very unfair. He plays a team sport, and he's been an MVP in a regular season, but he's also one who hasn't either played at his best because of injuries or other reasons, hasn't played at his best in really big moments. And you have to look long and hard at Embiid too. We're getting pretty close to that point. You might have to make a move.
I don't want Anthony Davis. I think he's athletic, good defender, but I don't want, at this stage, I don't want draft picks. I want players. I don't want draft picks.
Yeah.
Draft picks, especially Sixers draft picks, that's a huge risk. I want proven commodities right now. I want players I can plug and play that can complement each other.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm giving you Embiid, you got to give me Anthony and something else as well. I don't want just Anthony. You got to give me something else that can help me now.
Yeah, that's the thing. I almost feel like with this team and with this fan base, because you went through the process and it was all about assets, i.e. draft picks. Yeah, it's like show me the baby at this point. I think that's where the Sixers are. But I don't know how you swing out of this. The problem, too, you have, Derek, is if eventually you're moving Embiid, it's a wing league. It's not necessarily a center league. Now, I know you're going to say Denver just won it with Jokic. I get it. Jokic is very different than what most bigs are. Everything runs through him. He's the point center almost. So he's a little bit of a different circumstance. Not that Embiid can't pass out of a double team or a triple team, but I think it's a little bit trickier than getting really good value for him. Like, are you willing to pay?
Yeah. See, Barbara brings up, how about Zion? Zion's a phenomenal talent. I don't know if I can touch him with all this baby mama drama surrounding. There's blowing up on Twitter.
A lot going on with him.
Dude, you got women coming out of the woodwork talking about, I don't even want to get into it, man. I mean, it's like, you talk about no holds barred, down and dirty.
Yeah.
Man, there are women out there trashing this dude left and right. Does an organization that already has enough issues want that headache?
No. Look, I really, like, there's a lot of steam that they may move him to Portland, but I'm starting to think Dame Lillard ends up going to Miami. It's kind of where that feels. Feels like to me.
Zion, I move him out of the country. Dude, it's like, man, oh my goodness. Talk about his physical attributes, lack thereof. Man, I mean, whoa.
Even if you put all that, and it's a lot, even if you put all that craziness aside for a minute, he's another one. He doesn't play enough.
There you go.
He's old, young dude. As much time as he misses, like, that's going to get better as he gets older with that big body.
Look at the money he's making.
Yeah.
No, thank you. No, I'm good. I'm good. If he was just the basketball player, and if he could play at least 68 games a regular season and there for the playoffs, I love the kid. He's a phenomenal talent. When he's just about basketball, phenomenal talent, but there's too much other stuff that goes on with him. The money factors in, his lack of availability, and of course, all of this days of our lives stuff that we're watching play out on Twitter.
Yeah, I know.
No, thank you.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Dude.
Another interesting question from Dan: would you gamble and send Embiid to Memphis for Ja? Here's what I would say to that.
What else you giving me? I can't take. I'm not sending the best big in the game just to Memphis for a guard.
Yeah, I mean it's complicated. He's on a 25 gamer now in terms of the suspension. If he stubs his toe again, he's looking at a half a year.
Yep.
So that's the other thing. You're always holding your breath. You know, like if he's was he out last night? We're getting reports of this. There's a lot there with that too.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah,
he's at that second stage now. And he says all the right things through public apology again.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee he's not going to do something like this again.
No, and that's the thing. Say whatever you want about Embiid. There's none of that stuff that goes on with Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is not a party guy. He's not making videos. You know, he may go home a little bit too much and maybe not spend time with his friends. But I'll take that any day over some of the other stuff that's going on. So
look at how many players came out and publicly defended Ja Morant after his first infraction.
The first time. Right.
And then, of course, he embarrassed them the second time doing it again.
Yeah.
Okay. In how many months? How many months? A couple of months separated?
Not even. Yeah, about that. Maybe 2 months. Yeah.
Now it's too soon. Too soon for him. Plus, it's phenomenal of a talent as he is, and that dude plays above the Raptors, no question about it. I'm not trading him straight up for a beat. Give me Hey, Memphis is deep enough. You can afford to give up a couple of players. Give me a couple of players.
You know, and I also don't, as much as they got to be scared to death what's going on with him, I think they also are not ready to pull that trigger. You know, that's a bad pun, and I did not mean it. I don't think they're ready to move him. I did not. I swear to God, I didn't mean that. It was coming out of my mouth. I'm like, ugh. Reminder, self, don't ever use puns about guns with Ja Morant. All right.
Hey, what's wrong with the name Gun? What's wrong with that?
That's correct. That's GUN.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm glad
not
you
the double. Not that GUNN is the way
you clarify. That's all I want to
change. Yes, exactly. Everything should be GUNN. All right. So we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Yes, I did not mean that, Fitness Rebel. We'll talk some NFL when we get back. A lot to get to. Among it, the up down drill. We'll do that when we get back. We'll talk a little bit about what Dak's numbers have been against the Eagles. Not great. Not great in terms of the Eagles looking at it. So we'll cover all those things when we come back. A reminder, Brandon Graham tomorrow at 12:30. All right, he's Derek. I'm Rob. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports, YouTube network. Time for me now to tell you about Flynn Tree Services. Yes, they are an experienced, licensed, insured Pennsylvania tree services company that will trim or remove any unwanted trees off of your property. They offer cost-effective solutions to any tree problem that you may face, and they are experts at trimming all types of trees and serve southeastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, and northern Delaware. Keep in mind, we're in a good little time period right now before the summer really, really hits and we get the heavy rain and the wind and all that kind of stuff. Good time to get your trees evaluated. You can go to their Facebook or Instagram page for more information or a sampling of their work. Give Flynn Tree Services a call, 610-850-2848, 610-850-2848, or online at flynntreeservices.com. That's flynntreeservices.com.